Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Town of Greater Napanee Committee of Adjustment for the 31st of January, 2023. I'd just like to remind everybody that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the Town of Greater Napanee YouTube channel. So without further ado, we'll call the meeting to order. I'll look for a motion for the adoption of the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Norrie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. Questions, comments, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, look for a motion for the adoption of the minutes for the Committee of Adjustment on January 10th, 2023. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Pennell. Comments, questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Land severance application. We have a land severance application with respect to 1808 Pine Grove Road. And Michael, I believe you may want to speak to this.
Sure, Your Worship. Just for some background, this application came in just before we had a great big snowfall, and staff and Quinte Conservation staff were confident that we'd be able to get this review done prior to any large snowfalls coming in. But unfortunately, with recent snowfall, it has not fared well for Quinte Conservation to do their on-site review to determine the boundary and the extent of the wetland on the property. So they're just requesting deferral until the snow's gone, and they can get better eyes on the ground for that review.
Thanks, Mike. And I guess I should have asked, is there anybody in the body of the council chamber speaking for or against? Seeing none, is there any questions of Michael with respect to the application? Seeing none, we've got a recommendation that a decision regarding the application PLCOR 2022-092 be deferred at the request of the Quinte Conservation Authority to permit additional study of the site conditions related to the wetland boundary on the subject property. Moved by, we'll look for a motion, Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any further comments or questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. The next one, which I believe is 5.2. I think it's the same situation, Michael?
Exact same. Yeah.
Exact same situation. Is there any questions of Michael with respect to it? Seeing none, we'll look for a motion with respect to deferring this request as well. I guess the first one was, PLCOR 2022-091. This one is PLCOR 2022-092. So we'll look for a motion to defer. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Norrie. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Minor variance application, it's 6.1 minor variance application PLVAR 2022-100. And you're up again, Mike.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. This application is linked to a previously approved consent application from just before the new year. One of the conditions imposed on that application was that a minor variance be applied for and successfully obtained for the resultant retained lot frontage for the what is the retained lot for two severance applications. The retained lot is a large agricultural land holding, and the minimum lot frontage requirement is 100 meters. So this the resultant lot frontage after the two severance applications is around the 78-80 meter mark instead of 100. So staff have reviewed it. We're confident that there's still good access for agricultural equipment to access the balance of the lands to the rear. And the second part of this application is to reduce the MDS1 from an adjacent currently unoccupied barn at 2090 County Road 9. With this resulting lot configuration, as a result of the two consent applications, we would need to review the retained lot as a new lot for the purposes of MDS1 compliance. While it's a very large lot, the applicant is wishing to place the house more or less in line with the existing home that has been severed and what will be a new residential parcel immediately to the west of that. So it would be in line with that row of houses per se. Staff are supportive of the request. We've spoken with the owner of that unoccupied barn. They didn't have any concern. They're not using it at this time, and they don't feel that when and if it is activated that it would cause issue having a dwelling located about 100 meters or so away from that barn. So with it being unoccupied, when we do the calculation, it applies a fairly generous factor onto what the MDS1 should be for a new dwelling. So staff are supportive of the request, and further south on the property, the house could be located in compliance with that MDS1 requirement further south. However, there is a low spot in the fields. There's it's used for a drainage channel, and the applicant is wishing to not have to build that far back, and in an effort to not have to cross that drainage channel. So with all that being said, staff are supportive of both aspects of the application.
Thanks, Michael. And I guess I should have asked, is there anybody here speaking for or against? Seeing none. And is there any questions? Councillor Canal.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Michael, with minor variance on that barn, and now that it's vacant, is that going to put any restrictions? I know you talked about it a little bit for future, but will the owners, let's say even that they sell it and it goes into somebody else's name, will they have to reapply? Will this restrict them in any way?
Through your worship, that barn is an established building today, so no, it would not impede any future use of that barn. If there were an application to construct a new barn, for example, that barn would have to be compliant with MDS2, which applies a larger setback factor typically from neighboring residential parcels and dwellings. So no, that barn has rights per se, in that it can be activated at any time. The reason for the MDS1 and trying to site these new dwellings as far away as possible from these unoccupied facilities is to anticipate what level of odor and activity might be given the size of the barn. However, it does have rights and it can be activated at any time, even though a new dwelling were to be located closer per se. So we're not handcuffing that owner.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we have a staff recommendation that the committee receive for information the technical report regarding application PLVAR 2022-100, and further that the application requesting a variance from section 4.4A in the amount of 70 meters and section 5.6.3 sub B in the amount of 22 meters from the town of Greater Napanee zoning bylaw 02-22 as amended be approved. Moved by Councillor Noir, seconded by Councillor Martin. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. 6.2 minor variance application BLVAR 2023-001 with respect to the property at 4159 County Road 9. Is there anybody here speaking for or against? If you just answer, and we'll just need your name for the record. Ken Dunn. Perfect. Thank you. We'll give you an opportunity. I think what we'll do is we'll let Michael sort of give us a rundown on this, and then we'll give you an opportunity to speak if you wish to. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Worship. The application before the committee this evening is in relation to proposed demolition and reconstruction of 6 cabins along the water's edge. They're located very, very close to the water's edge right now at the former Perfect View Resort. The applicant is intending to demolish and reconstruct those buildings. They were hoping to do so within the exact same footprint as they occupy today. The Planning Act permits such demolition and reconstruction, given that they're essentially a grandfathered structure. They can be demolished and rebuilt, contained within that same footprint, but not getting any larger, for example. However, given how close they are to the water's edge, they're actually located within the flood hazard, and the local conservation authority is unable to grant a permit to actually undertake that reconstruction. So although they would be allowed to do so under Planning Act provisions, the CRCA's regulations actually would not permit that reconstruction, given that it's located actually within the flood hazard. So the CRCA has requested that the cabins be moved further back off of their original footprint. However, they're not able to meet the stringent 30-meter setback by today's standards. So therefore, the applicant is requesting that there's a minor variance be approved to allow for those reconstructions setback further afield from the water's edge. That's what this application is specifically referring to, and they're related to cabins identified on the site plan as cabins CA, and there are 6 of them, I believe, down along the water's edge there. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take those. Any questions, or I believe the applicant is in attendance as well.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions of Michael first? Go ahead, Councillor Pennell.
Thank you, through your worship, Michael. The cabin sizes, will they remain the same as they are now, or is there an opportunity to make them a little bit larger now that they're being moved back?
Through your worship, there is an opportunity to make them slightly larger. They're planned to be in the same ballpark of floor area as they are today. But I believe, there's just some rounding out of, corners of the building, and they might slightly be enlarged, but by and large, they're about the same size as they are currently today.
Okay, great. Thanks. Just one more.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, worship. And by doing this setback, are we held liable at all if there is a flood by not conforming with the larger setback?
Through your worship, anytime we issue a building permit for any development, we're always assuming some level of liability. In this respect, the CRCA is very confident in the flood hazard limit and the associated setback. That I don't believe that there will be any issues per se down the road, given fluctuating water levels, flood situations. I don't believe we would run into a situation where there'd be damage to these buildings. CRCA has done some fairly significant updating of their flood mapping, specifically in this area, and they're confident that the setbacks as proposed are going to be located well outside of that flood hazard. Unfortunately, the buildings can't meet that 30-meter setback provision that we have as a standard in our zoning bylaw today.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there any other questions of Michael? Seeing none. Mr. Dunn, did you want to say anything or enlighten us with anything with respect to your property out there?
Sure, your worship and members of council. First thing.
Sorry, come on forward. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. As a
Slides that you sent me are available.
Does it take a second to do that, or?
No.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Your worship and members of council, the first thing I'd like to say is I thought I was going to have to come here and explain what we were actually doing in this minor variance, but I'd like to thank, Mike Nobes for taking care of that. He really appropriately described what's happening. As a way of introduction, what we're actually doing with the property is turning it into literally a world caliber 5-star cottage resort. It's been named the Hay Bay Resort in honor of the area that it's in. We're setting out on a year-long development project that's going to be done in 2 phases. The first phase, working in concert with the building department, is to rebuild everything that exists already and then eventually move into some expansion. And we're really excited about it. We're going to hire 40 people in the local market. In the next 6 months, we're bringing in a world caliber general manager who was the 19-year general manager of the White Oaks Resort in Niagara Falls, Niagara on the Lake. He's relocating to the city or to the town. And we're just really excited about where everything's going.
Great. Do we have any questions of Mr. Dunn at all? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calvert.
Yeah, through your worship, you mentioned you're looking to hire 40 people. Are they going to be locals, or are they going to be brought in from out of town?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we're definitely going to try and hire every single person, from the local area. I've been very open in saying I'd like to hire everybody right from that peninsula out there. The way we're building the resort is incorporating a lot of things that I think the community at large needs, and I think it would only be appropriate to try and hire as many of those people locally as we can.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. I mean, this is, I think, probably the first time that we've seen this as a council. I know that it's been out there in social media and of course, being from the neighborhood, it has run through the neighborhood as well. So it looks like an extremely exciting venture. And I think we as a community probably deserve it. So we're going to be interested in following it, and I'm sure we'll see more information in the future on it. But thank you for picking our community to invest in.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a staff sorry. Oh, sorry, Mr. Dunn.
Actually, more for Michael.
Oh, it's for, oh, no, never mind, then it's for Michael, sorry.
Thank you, through your worship. Michael, just to clarify, I know we know what's going on here, but everything this gentleman wants to do on this property, it's already zoned for, is that correct?
Through your worship, yes, that is correct. This is in a C5 zone, so a recreational commercial zone. Permits, cabin establishment, restaurant. It permits essentially everything that you see on the site plan today. It is permitted. I'm not sure if we've lost the images that Mr. Dunn had up there on the screen, but yes, this use is permitted. It's been long established. It's zoned for the use today.
Perfect, thank you.
Great. Sorry about that, Deputy Mayor Calver. We have a staff recommendation before us that the committee receive for information the technical report regarding application PLBAR 2023-001, and further that the application requesting a variance from section 4.11B sub I in the amount of 15.5 meters from the town of Greater Napanee zoning bylaw 0222 as amended be approved. Looking for a motion. Councillor Nori. Councillor Martin, is there any further questions or comments or concerns?
Is there anybody against?
I don't believe there was. I don't believe that there was anybody against.
No, I was just fresh. I just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, and I have
sitting beside him. I wasn't sure.
And I appreciate that. Thanks, Councillor Shank. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Motion for adjournment. Councillor Shank, Councillor Hicks. Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks, folks, and we'll see you shortly with respect to the regular session of council.
Sell